Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Intentional Living Podcast with Marty Keller here in Sacramento and my colleague, mentor, and friend, John Donovan in Oceanside, California. How are you, John?
I'm doing well, Marty. You?
As you like to say, I'm participating well in my life.
There you go.
I love to steal your line there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but I was actually thinking, I said this to someone else today, and she didn't pick up on it. I said, well, the idea that is Marty Keller is having a good day today.
Ah, yeah,
Since all human beings start out as a belief about ourselves, we're actually way more than our belief and our self-conception, but that may be a topic a little bit larger than what we usually cover here on the podcast.
yeah, yeah,
So what
yeah.
do we cover here on the podcast? Well, if you're a newcomer, welcome. We're here to take a look at how to break patterns of behaviors that we say we don't want, and yet sometimes they continue to manifest, show up, and disrupt our lives. What do I mean by? Well, have you just consider these questions? Have you ever hurt someone you loved, regretted it, and then turned around and hurt them again in the exact same way? Have you ever realized in the middle of an argument that you were on the wrong side of that argument and you continued to argue the point anyway?
Yep.
Or have you ever known that you were about to do or say something that you would regret? Maybe even hearing a little voice telling you, don't do that. And yet you couldn't stop, or you weren't willing to stop. This is what we're talking about. Those kinds of experiences that we have. And this podcast, we examine and uncover these subconscious. These are all subconscious obstacles to creating the lives that we want to have and our deepest heart's desires. Learn how to befriend these obstacles and turn them into allies, turn them into ways to help us have that life of our deepest desires. The intentional living practice is something that we do in group, and we'll talk about how you could join that group. We'd love to have you. John and I talk about the process here, but we also facilitate group meetings to help people actually do the process. How do I
Mm.
learn to see and identify these behaviors and the source of these behaviors, the source of these compulsions, and then using what we call the accountability tree practice. How do I befriend them and how do I use them as a platform to create what I really want? Now, last week, John, we started to continue our ongoing, months-long ongoing examination of what we call the accountability practice principles, and we got sidetracked into a very powerful conversation about the power of perspective.
Yeah.
And so before we get diving into today's principle, any thoughts or reflections from last week that would you like to share?
Um, Actually, no. Um, I'm actually excited about getting back into the principles, and this information goes wherever I believe it's needed for whoever's watching anyway. So that's probably one of the reasons we got sidetracked last week. We were talking about something that somebody needed to hear someplace. So I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to put the principles up on our share screen, and so that all of our viewers can see what the heck we're talking about. Um, so we have a number of these principles, and like we said last week, these principles are stated and can be, some people can find this to be pretty strong or provocative language, like the first one. And by the way, these aren't in any particular order of importance. They're just the order that we came up with them. So as far as I'm concerned, the last one on the list is as important as the first one. Um, so the first principle that we listed is I'm always getting what I want. And like we said last week, what? How can that be possible? There's lots of stuff that shows up I don't want. Well, including those compulsive behaviors that we talk about at the beginning
Hmm.
of the podcast. I don't want those, and yet they're there. So
Yeah.
somehow, what we say in the accountability world is that I'm participating in that somehow. And so other principles, and by the way, there's a podcast on every one of these until we get to the one today. So it's never about the other person. The issue is not the issue. People treat me the way I want them to. The quality of my life is determined by the focus of my attention. Life happens for me, not to me. What I resist persists. Hurt people hurt people. The world outside of me is but a reflection of the world inside me, and life is lived from the inside out. It doesn't have to make sense. What? Trust the body, blame free, judgment free. Healing is contagious. The more conscious we are of what we choose, the more powerful the choice. Every thought has a corresponding body sensation. Personalize everything. Don't take anything personally. The answer is not the answer. And the last one that we talked about, which was put up a couple weeks ago, I cannot not feel. I'm always feeling something. So today, the principle that we're going to take a look at is the next one, which is what you hate, you become. What you hate, you become. John, what does that mean? And how does that happen?
Um, it means that what you focus on, you feed. Um, an example of this is in my family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma. As I grew up into my teen adulthood, I did not want to be like my father. And I swore I'm not going to be like that guy. He's this, and I named all the things that I hated about him. And then early in my recovery, I was looking at the behaviors that I had that were codependency, addiction, or some type of avoid behavior like rageaholic. And it dawned on me that, oh my God, I'm just like him. Oh my God. Oh, except for one little thing. I don't hit people the way he used to hit people. And I didn't say I don't hit people. And that realization that I had become him with the awareness that I spent my whole life not wanting to be him was confounding. Oh, and I heard this statement somewhere in my recovery process. What you focus on, you feed. It's like that wolf thing, you know, which wolf will win? The one with anger or the one with kindness? Well, the one you feed. Well, I fed, I hate my dad a lot. I mean, I was constantly not wanting to be like him. And even if I had wanted to be like him or not be like him, neither one of those was me. So who am I? What do I want? What life do I want to live? Do I want to relive my father's life or live opposite my father's life? Which may be me, I don't know. And I want to offer that neither one of those is truly my authentic self. So in that moment, what I hate, I've become what I've hated all my life. And then I've had, experiences throughout my life. I've watched organizations start, like grassroots organizations like the Men Alive, Men Aligned Nationally Against Living in a Violent Environment. That's a bunch of men looking at their violence that they do. And after a while, that organization became punitive. It became what they were trying to get away from. Um, in fact, the founder of that organization said he was an activist, and he found that the activists could only stay together long enough. They couldn't stay together long enough to achieve their goal because of internal fighting and coercion and emotional, verbal, and physical violence inside the organization itself. So it actually became what it was established to address. It became that dysfunctional organization that was either short-sighted or single-sighted instead of what they say they wanted, which was advocate for people in need, or actually, Man Alive was started to advocate for the person in the domestic violence that got dismissed, which was the violent guy. Where did he go? They had women's safety shelters. They had women, this, all kinds of things for women. But the guy was like jail. They had jail and go home and be nice. It's like, so he started that organization so that we could look at ourselves and see how we have brought this on ourselves. Um, so that's where I came to the conclusion that and the conclusion I came to is my own experience of this. I don't know what the guy meant who coined the phrase, you become what you hate. My experience is almost verbatim. I actually became what it was I was focused on not being. So,
Just a couple things, if I might. First of all, when you were talking about you and your dad, I was asking myself the question, are we twin brothers of different parents?
right.
Because I had the exact same experience that I remember in my 20s, I just could not stand to be around him. When I saw him speak to other people, I'd have these thoughts like, you people don't know what he's really like, and all these and I had no clue about this idea of what we resist persists, which is one of our principles,
Mm-hmm.
which this one is related to, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Um, uh, and I was I grew up in Michigan and I moved to California when I was 30. And after I moved here, I had a little distance, a little perspective. I couldn't see him as regularly as I did then. I got into I worked in a printing company. Well, my dad was a printer. My dad ran a
Mm.
printing company and he was a really good salesman. He built that company up and it was very successful. And I found myself as a salesman in a printing company in San Francisco. And I asked myself the question, what is going on here? I didn't set out with any conscious intention whatsoever to end up doing the same thing my father did professionally. And I found myself talking to potential clients and I could hear my dad speaking through my mouth.
Yeah.
And I had the grace, it sounds like you did too. I had the grace. I don't know how it happened. Just one day I just said, you know what? I'm just like him. So
Yep.
what?
Yep.
And but I do remember that when I said that, something shifted in my
Yep.
life. Something shifted. Now, years later, I can take a look and talk about, name that. But in those days, I just knew it was the right thing to do. I didn't know about self-hatred. I didn't know about child or family of origin childhood dysfunction.
Right.
I hadn't started at ACA yet.
No.
This was just a grace of God offering me, like we would say, or you would say in a meeting, it's like, would you be willing to consider?
Mm-hmm.
And as a facilitator of our meetings, I've said that to many people. Would you be willing to consider? You're just like your old man.
Yep.
So the first thing I wanted to say is that this is very common and that your experience mirrors mine, or at least the way I heard you say it mirrors my own experience. But what I wanted to ask you about, and particularly to help people really wrap our arms around this concept, what is hatred and how do we learn it? We come into this world seeking love. We even have an exercise, or you have an exercise called Love Equals, where
Mm-hmm.
it's based on the fact that the infant comes out of the womb ready for love
Yep.
and is not oriented to hatred. And yet, self-hatred, I think, is endemic in the human species. What is hatred and how do we get there? What do you think?
Well, just judgment, comparison, um, um, getting mixed up the essence of who I am and the behaviors that I have, like seeing the behaviors as me instead
Ah,
of behaviors coming through me based on my experience and what I know. One of my behaviors I've owned was alcoholic codependent. Well, when I took that to the true statement of the accountability process, I'm codependent. It just, of course I am. Look where I came from. It was, I could make that connection. Me being codependent, being raised by, in a dysfunctional home, I get my value by making you happy, which also created my safety, which I gave myself up to make you, which is reasonable for the child. It's reasonable for the child to do that, to posture in a way that it wouldn't get hurt. The best way it knew how, which making sure, you walk through the room, make sure mom and dad don't have the little thing in their forehead, or we got to pay attention to everything that's going on, because it's like we might get lambasted for something we don't know. So we had everything okay. Are you okay? I'll do this for you. I'll do this for you. Aren't I such a good boy? Aren't I such a good boy because I'm being nice and I'm being obedient and I'm being, which is like not learning about myself, not learning emotion regulation, impulse control, frustration tolerance, and delayed gratification, which is what I needed the foundation I needed so that when I became an adult, I could face what was coming to me through life, and it's a struggle, with these things as a foundation to be able to regulate my emotions and understand that, well, life is frustrating. How do you handle that in a way that's graceful or healthy? And I used to handle my frustration by lashing out, emotional, verbal, and or physical violence towards the other person or towards myself, which caused the stress and then, the drinking and the codependency and the avoidant behaviors that I had. So the original question is, what is hate? Judgment, which I learned as a child to judge myself in comparison to what's going on there so I could stay safe. Criticizing.
Or if I could, or in comparison to a standard that we're told we're supposed to meet.
There you go. I like that. That's one of the ingredients.
And so to see if this makes sense to you, John, and the comparison, now back to your comparison of the fact that the parents are not meeting the standard they're telling us we have to meet.
Correct. It's that do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
Which sometimes was verbalized.
Yeah.
No, these are the rules for you.
Right.
I don't know about me.
This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you.
Yeah. Oh.
So I think that utterly unreasonable position that a child is put in, and this goes back to what you're saying about why it's reasonable that we might grow up codependent, is because we have no external choice to offer us something different. We can only respond to what's presented to us in that family environment. And last week we talked about perspective. That's the only perspective we can have.
Yes.
So we're imprisoned.
And from the ages of 0 to 6, 7, it is us.
Exactly.
We don't know the difference. So we take on the words that come to me is disgust, unrequited. I don't know if that's the right word, but unexpressed disgust, unexpressed disappointment, whether in self or life.
Right.
Festering, turning into resentment, bitterness, and contempt, and we call that hate.
I think also, I just want to ask you, I think somehow rejection is in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
hatred,
not being seen for who we were or heard, and not even know that we weren't being seen or heard.
Right. And because we don't have any other option but to learn this in the environment, the prison of the emotional world that we grew up in, we adapted the very same perspective as we became children and then adolescents and then adults.
Right.
So we become what we hate maybe we could say is we hate what we become. I mean, it's almost the same thing. It's like we're stuck.
Yeah, and I'm thinking the next level up here, we chose a word to describe the behavior or the sense of self that is that's not true. It's like um, because what else we got to come up with some rational reason. I hate you is like uh, now that we're talking about it, I believe hate is a construct we use to define something we don't understand.
And fear.
Fear, fear or survival. The need to
Yeah.
survive, posture in a way that surviving, which dismisses, ignores, and redefines our own self, which causes the, what do you call that? Diametrically opposed. What do you call those two opinions diametrically opposed?
Paradox.
Um, Paradox. And then we got to reconcile that in here, which we don't have the tools to do it. So it locks, festers, and then I spit that festering. I used to call it spitting poison on the people I say I love. It was like I could watch myself actually spit poison on people and wonder what the hell am I doing? It was like what is this screaming inside my head? Stop! Don't whoa. So this is a new awareness for me, or a new way that I've articulated it, is that we create these words to describe something that I want to offer does not exist, and it's the only way we can contextualize what we're seeing. So we use the word hate.
I actually,
And
what are you reading my mind, Donovan? I actually
oh,
was thinking to myself the same thing, and maybe I'm not hearing you accurately, but I'm wondering if ultimately the bottom line is there really is no such thing as hatred.
I'm willing to have that discussion.
And
I'm willing to contemplate that.
what made me think that is, it's almost like it's one of our principles. Hatred is love that has become warped.
Yeah,
Um, so if love begins as unconditional acceptance, then hatred is rejection. Hatred begins as rejection, but
hmm,
acceptance, there's no rejection unless there's less acceptance is a possibility. So I I'm born, I'm expecting, I'm designed to be accepted. Whatever I'm experiencing that is painful and as an adult I can call rejection becomes something I defend against.
yep,
And I have no choice but to defend against it because survival is not an option. I mean, not surviving is not an option.
correct.
So that little baby, little tiny little 6-month-old baby, if it's not getting fed regularly or it's ignored when it's crying or whatever it is, that has to develop a defense against is already the beginning of rejection. Like something's
Yep.
wrong. So
Hmm.
if self-hatred begins in defending against rejection, then ultimately it's still not real. I mean, it's real in the sense that it happens and it becomes something we have to deal with. But because love is the ultimate uh, power, I'm groping at words here, so it might sound a little woo-woo to some of us. Um, love is it's just like truth is real and lies are not. So love is real, hatred is not.
Yeah.
Does that make, am I making any sense here?
Well, the other statement, the principles of science of mind, or Ernest Holmes' Centers for Spiritual Awareness. One of their principles is there's either a call for love or an expression of love, no exceptions.
Right.
So what we're calling hate, which is assigning judgment, is actually a call for love, somehow, some way, convoluted, really messed up, really manipulative call for love, and nonetheless a call for love. Um,
Well, and you might recall when you've proposed this as a principle, I said, how about we become what we hate and we become what we love?
mhm.
because love is the attractive power. Love is the power of attraction. Love is the power of connection. Love is the power. And because we're social animals, we cannot not be moved to connect, to be
Correct.
part
It's
of.
all about, yes, it's all about relationships. Everything we
Right.
do, it's in relationship to either ourselves or the people around us. And if there were no people around us, there would be no reason to have this conversation because we would not know shit because we'd
Right.
just be there looking at whatever we're looking at. I don't know. And it's in the relationship that well, the trauma happened in the presence of people, and now our healing is happening in the presence of people.
Yeah.
Um, and as we're going through these principles, we're also expanding our awareness of well, let me say it this way. I'm expanding my awareness of what I thought I knew when I first said it.
Exactly.
Now, now I'm more uh, enriched through this dialogue. Oh my God, maybe we're just using language that is inadequate to talk about each other. Or
Well, yeah,
so
I think, well, the reality is that we live in evolution. Things are evolving, and things evolve on a macro, long-term time scale, as well as in an individual day-to-day scale. So we
yeah,
can see when we get into recovery, we can see that evolution, spiritual, psychological, emotional,
yeah,
intellectual. We can see that, we can measure it because we know what we thought and how we felt when we began. And then
yep,
2, 3, 5, 10 years later, we can see what's different.
yep,
And
yep,
so that's so for me, if we're willing to go back to what you're talking about, science of mind, if we're willing to accept that love is a foundational power of consciousness and then the universe, then hatred is not really an opposing power.
no,
It's
no,
it's uh it's something different. It's a warping or a lack of love or a failure to fully grasp what love offers.
or an
We got it.
opportunity for clarity.
Yeah, yeah.
And not to say it don't hurt, not to say it
No,
doesn't create separation, not to
no.
say it's not painful. I'm not saying that those things aren't there too, uh, which cloud the perspective. And yeah, wow, Marty.
Well, let's try something. Let's see if we can now go back to what we started out with talking about our dads.
Okay.
So, did we hate our dads, or what was really in light of this conversation, what could we say? Um, I told myself that I hated my old man, but what I was doing is I was rejecting my own experience, my own self as I saw it in him.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in time, I had the grace to stop the rejection and move to acceptance, and everything changed.
Mm-hmm. Um, not having the foundation of self that we could get through empathy, and there's things that are built upon each other, developmental psychology, where the infant learns surrender and trust. So it knows that if it cries, something will nurture it. If that doesn't happen, we don't have that foundation of trust. So then we move to the next one is worthiness. Am I enough? And if we don't get that foundation, and we move on to what the next level would be is um, um, surrender and rejection and abandonment. So then without this foundation, we did the best I could. And here's what I saw when I looked at my dad was disgust and um, disgust and fear. Disgust at his um, he was like this people. He was either sitting on his chair watching TV all day long, zoned out, not available, no opinion, no nothing, or he was just raging maniac at night, throwing stuff and screaming and hitting people. So disgust and just, I don't want to say pity, but it was a different level of disgust. Um, and I didn't want that.
Right.
I didn't want somebody looking at me disgusted. So I'm not going to be like that. I hate my father. No, I was confused and disgusted by his behavior, which isn't him. That's one of the things we talk about. We
Right.
are not our behaviors. We're the now in retrospect, I can see his family of origin dysfunction and how that worked on him and built him to be where he was there. That my projection was disgust and a deeper level of disgust for the.
Well, and isn't there also the possibility of a secret fear that we are disgusting, that
That's
we're
exactly what happened.
that we're
Yep.
projecting? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean that he doesn't do things that we're disgusting. Projection doesn't mean that what we see that triggers us isn't there.
Right.
It just has to do with it's a fear that it's also us.
Yes.
And so we build defenses. This goes to what rejection is. The rejection is, in a certain way, it's a defense against acceptance. Now we can't accept this, which
Mm-hmm.
is love. Love is accepting. I intend to accept myself just the way I am. That's the beginning of self-love.
Mm-hmm.
So rejection is the unwillingness to accept. So it's the pushing away of the possibility. It's why so many of us who are adult children of alcoholics find a push-pull relationship with love, with actual love with real people. We
Yep.
really want it, but sometimes we push it away because we can't trust it. And we
Correct.
feel stuck in that paradox between desiring to be loved by that person and not able to trust that she or he can really be in that relationship with us.
Correct. That's tangled. That's a complex post-traumatic stress. And I want to say, when I'm experiencing it in the trigger mode, when I say somebody triggers me and I'm in a reactive mode, whatever happened, oh my God, I can say 60 years ago, uh, uh, is right here, right now. So it's actually acute, complex
Yep.
post-traumatic stress because
Right.
it's happening right now in the moment. Because the subconscious doesn't tell time. There's no time.
Right.
So when the trigger happens, I see something disgusting. Oh, I'm not that. I go into some avoidant behavior pattern that we're talking about. We get stuck in, like hurt somebody I love, regret it, and then turn right around and do it again exactly the same way I just did it by dismissing, ignoring, or redefining their reality again. I'll never do that again. Take a breath. Boom, it happened. Oh, what? So, yeah,
Yeah.
unravel that. Unravel that in one podcast.
Sorry.
Okay, so we will be back next week with another attempt to sort through this the best way we can
Right.
so that our clarity becomes different.
But before we wrap it up, let's just assure people
Okay.
that the the power of the accountability practice and many other recovery practices is to teach us to love ourselves. That
Yes.
all this hatred and rejection and so forth that we experience, regardless of its relationship to love and at the foundational point of human reality, it's interesting to know and it may be useful, but the real thing is, how do I learn to love myself? How do I ex- and for me, it begins with I intend to accept myself just the way I am. I intend to accept myself just the way I am, no matter what's happening. If I'm doing some behavior that causes disgust in myself, I accept myself.
Yeah.
And then you have developed different tools that we can use. I'm willing to be disgusting. I give myself permission to be disgusting. Whatever words of acceptance and unconditional acceptance I can use on my behaviors, on my thoughts, on my feelings, begin the process of melting away opposition to self-love,
Correct.
self-acceptance, that ultimately becomes self-joy. But let's start with self-acceptance before we get
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Before we go too far, take too big a leap. Take a bite.
exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Marty.
All right, so my friends, as I've said before, we actually do this work. John and I sort of had a group meeting here right now, but we also do this work in accountability practice groups. There are 4 meetings a week. All of them are on Zoom, and we invite you to come join us, learn about the practice, learn about how we get inside the subconscious where all the compulsions live, the self-hatreds, the desire for self-love, and to learn to create that world that we really, really, at the deepest heart's desire, want to live in. And so, information on how to join the meetings will be at the end of the podcast. So please feel free to check us out, come and join us, and we'd love to see you, answer any questions, and or you can just sit and watch, whatever works for you. So, with that, any last minute thoughts, John, before we wrap up?
Yeah, we got to figure out a way to make this nationwide, more so than it is, because I know Zoom, we got the whole planet covered depending on time zone, but still, this is such vital information that shifts somebody's from wherever they find themselves and whatever compulsion they find themselves in into a feeling of calmness and freedom. And yeah,
Well, one
figure out a
thing
way to bring
everybody
it.
watching can do is hit that like button and subscribe to our
There you go.
channel,
Yeah,
and invite other friends to check it out.
yeah.
All right. Well, as always, John, it's a great joy to hang with you and share thoughts and ideas. And
As likewise, Marty. Thank you.
look forward to whatever we come up with next time. See you next week.
Okay. Thank you, Marty.
Thanks. Bye.